So talk to us about that blurring. How much are investors, institutional, anyone really, wanting to get more exposure to the private markets right now?
I think it's a core theme that we're seeing across asset classes, both in the equity market and the credit markets, of course. But as it relates to the equity lens, companies are staying private a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's well understood from 1997 being 5 years on average and $20 million of sales to 2025, where it's $220 million of sales and 14 years of being a private company. But the demand is there. The depth of the private markets is there. And I think the growth we're seeing is fueled by great innovation in the private markets. And so it's a theme that we're excited about. It's something that we think we're well positioned for as a firm, and excited to see what the year ahead brings.
I mean, look, your positioning is showing up in these valuations. $134 billion valuation for Databricks,
Yes.
in an almost unheard of Series L. I mean, is there the depth in the public markets to support the ambitions of these CEOs and the need for capital to continue to expand?
I think it's a really important question. I'm glad you asked, because inherent in every valuation, of course, is it supported by the fundamentals? Ali and the Databricks management team have done an exceptional job of positioning themselves effectively for the AI wave, making sure that data and that infrastructure layer is well supported and that they're the market leader. And it shows up in the metrics. They're growing 2 times the rate of public high growth SaaS comps. They're positioned effectively with net expansion rates of 140%. There are no public companies in the software space growing at that level. So I think that drives the valuation, it drives the demand for the company. They've also been aggressive in their pursuit of assets on the acquisition side that have effectively positioned them. So to us, it was a privilege to co-lead the financing. We think the public markets will view this as one of the premier darling assets in the private markets. And so when they go public, it will be an exciting moment for the company and certainly for us.
There's a few other darling assets out there. One of them, as reported by The Information, is currently fundraising at a $750 billion valuation. That's OpenAI. That's in your portfolio too.
Yes.
Are they fundraising?
So I will let the company speak for themselves on that. I would say we're very proud and excited investors to be backing OpenAI. I think Sam and his team, time and time again, despite a little bit of the negative news or the challenges associated with it, have demonstrated an ability to innovate on the product side, to form formidable partnerships. I mean, Disney and what they're doing there, as well as the partnerships with universities across the countries, are emblematic of that. It's not the first time that there's been a little bit of that focus and intensity of product market fit for them. And so to us, we think it's a great asset. We're excited to be investors in it. And they continue to be synonymous with growth in large language model space. And so I'll leave it at that, but certainly an exciting journey for the company.
I mean, the same blurring and tussle and mental models are going on in public and private.
Yes.
Too many big names dominating certain indices. Too much VC capital really is totally exposed to the AI trade. How have you talked to your clients and potential future LPs about, well, the economy not supporting what is an AI bubble?
I think there's a few things you have to root yourself in, and just taking a step back at times and zooming out makes it a little bit easier to appreciate the growth in the private markets and AI in particular. You go back 3 years ago, ChatGPT had just emerged on the scene. We're at 1 billion monthly active users, and it is one of the most intertwined assets within a tech stack at both the consumer level and the enterprise level. You have growth curves being completely redefined. That's the hardest part, I think, for public market investors, is you have companies achieving $100 million of revenue 1 to 2 years faster than their public SaaS companies did when they were private, at 20 to 30% the number of employees. Think about the compounding effects of that over time. So yes, there will be, in any tech cycle, there are assets that are overvalued, there's excess, there are companies that may completely go bust, but inherent in every single tech cycle, cloud computing, infrastructure, 5G, mobile internet, there is a new cohort of companies that define those generations. And we think we're seeing many of those play out in the private markets.
Look, the leading one defining private market valuations at the moment is SpaceX. We're on tenterhooks waiting for Blue Origin to launch, and we're going to go back to it in a moment. But what are your perspective in terms of where 2026 is going to see really the excitement, the exuberance? Is it going to be all about generative AI, the models, the LLMs, or more space more broadly?
I think it's very clear that defense technology and space is having a moment, and appropriately so. I think the rate of innovation, the Starlink business, just a handful of years ago, there was a lot of speculation on what the monetization profile of that asset would look like. For us, we are definitely focused on core assets where there's defensibility of spend from the chief information officer layer on the enterprise side, right? We benefit from JPMorgan's breadth of $18 billion of technology spend to drive insight there. But importantly, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, those are resilient areas of spend. Why? Because the efficacy that you're seeing now from deploying AI in your organization exceeds the cost. It is very much an ROI positive trade for people now. So focusing on the right companies, defensible moats, clear and sophisticated management teams to manage the conflicts and competition that comes to the fore, and then being in a position to back the winners is very much where we're positioned.